A warm welcome back onto the program. It's still the conversation here on Lagos Television. It's the Friday edition, and you know how we do it on Fridays. We treat families that are, we treat topics that are family-oriented, entertainment, all just so that we can at least set you in the right frame of mind for the weekend. And today, what are we looking at? We're asking a question: what is harder, marriage or parenting? Now, if you do ask me, I think these two institutions need special grace. And actually, they need special grace. And I don't know if they are in that pedestal where you want to actually compare, because really they are two totally different things. But of course, we do have a guest in the house today, and we'll be talking about this. Of course, she is a blogger. She's the founder at FabMomNG. Of course, you can keep up with that on Instagram, and I'm sure that she'll also enjoy being part of that group. Jane, thank you for being here on the program today.
Thank you so much.
All right, so we're looking at marriage or parenting, and like I said, either of the two, you need a special grace to succeed in a marriage or parenting. But if we were just to look at it, just to gloss over, you know, being in a marriage and being a parent, what are the similarities or what are the obstacles that one needs to get prepared for before you even, because before you even think of getting into one in the first place?
I like what you said, that both of them need special anointing. Both of them need special grace, because I mean the level of hardness or challenge is almost similar. But personally, I think marriage is harder.
You think so?
I think marriage is harder. Parenting is easier when you have when you're on the same page with your partner.
Okay.
And it's easier to love your child unconditionally. But with your spouse, of course, you have to love your spouse. But will I say unconditionally? Sometimes there is a but. You know, there's an underlining. So with loving your spouse, you have to be intentional and conscious about loving your spouse, even when he or she offends you, or even when he or she disappoints you.
Okay.
But with your child, it's almost like a no-brainer. You know, if you throw away
but some parents they throw away.
I mean, okay, so let me limit it to when your child is still growing. Right. I mean, with a child, God just gives you that child, hands that child over to you to form the child, to nurture that child. So you have...
So there's like a natural love.
Natural love, and then it's like a blank slate. You mold the child, I mean, of course, with God's grace, the way you would want. But with your spouse, he or she is already an adult.
Formed person.
You know, with choices, with idiosyncrasies, with beliefs, culture, family background, experiences, you know. And so it might be difficult for a full-blown adult to change. You know, so I think it's easier to parent
than to stay in a marriage.
And you know, it's easier for parents or women to open up and say, oh, parenting is challenging. But with marriage, when you open up and say your marriage is challenging, people automatically think maybe
you want to opt out.
You want to opt out. So most people are withdrawn. They would rather confide in people who they really trust. But you see mothers open up and say, parenting is tough. How do I potty train? How do I do this? But with marriage, it's a lot more sacred, and people tend to bottle up
things inside.
Okay, but when you look at the society of today, the 21st century parenting, and these Gen Z set of young ones, would you still say that parenting is easier than marriage?
Oh, I would say parenting is tougher right now.
Good.
Because of, I mean, the generation we are in. This is a smart generation. What's it called? Social media generation, where there's social media. When I was growing up, there was nothing like social media. I was telling my friend the other day that I think undergraduates now have so much advantage. I mean, you are going to school at a time where you could quickly Google up
your questions, yes.
When we were writing our projects, we had to go to business centers
for your research.
But now with your phone, you can even plagiarize. I mean, those who want to do all of that. So I think it's tougher now to even raise children. So I would always advocate for a mixture of the old school parenting and the new school, because you also have to be in tune with the times.
Okay.
So, I mean, if we now take, them step by step, obviously you would perhaps get into a marriage before you have a child.
Of course.
either way you want to look at it. So ideally, but of course some people also become parents before they get married,
Yes.
and then parenting would make them go into marriage at some point in time. But then when you are in a let me use this analogy. I saw a video last weekend where a pastor asked a family to come onto the altar. I don't know if you've ever come across that video. And then a family of the couple, and then two of the children. And typically when they got on stage, the pastor didn't ask them to arrange themselves, but they arranged themselves. So father, mother here, and then they put the children in the middle. And he said, in fact, that was what he wanted to prove. And he said, parents always do this. You always put your children in the middle and you forget about yourselves. So when the children leave, what happens? There's a gap already.
Of course.
And so before you start filling that gap, years are lost. And usually, so he said, it's rather parents, stay on one side and train the children, independent of themselves. So where I'm going here is, when you are in a marriage and then you think of parenting, it will either make or mar the marriage. And so how best can people get into their psyche that, whether they're children or not, this is us. And so it has to be making this us work rather than making this a family thing.
So I think for women it's tougher because let's be honest, once you get married, I mean, from your wedding day, they're already praying. In 9 months' time,
well, let's come and do naming ceremony.
So already,
the pressure.
There's already a pressure. Even some people impose that pressure on themselves. And normally, by nature, women are nurturers. So automatically, except a woman is very, very intentional, once she gets married, has children, she begins to sort of tilt that attention
towards
to the children. It just comes naturally. So you have to be intentional. I think you asked, how can you
ensuring that, even with the children, at least your marriage still is intact.
It's communication and just being in sync, creating date nights. And I mean, if your husband is also very hands-on with parenting, it will help free up some free space, free
space for both of you.
Free time for the woman to, have time for her partner. It's all about intentionality, because at the end of the day, how many years, what do experts usually say? You have just 18 years
to stay together with the children.
So there will be emptiness. At a point, the kids will grow. By the time they start getting to secondary school, just start preparing that. I mean,
you're on your own.
You're on your own. Once they get into SS1, SS2, SS3, I mean, that's university calling. So, I mean, if that friendship, that bond wasn't there when, they were much younger, it would be hard. So it's all about intentionality. As you're raising your children, be raising your marriage, because, I mean, marriage goes through seasons. When a woman gives birth to a child, the first 5 years is the baby. Whether we like it or not.
Right.
I mean, and then if she has kids in quick succession, then it means that
there are plenty babies.
There are plenty babies. She still has to baby the husband. And unfortunately, the brunt, whether we like it or not, the brunt of the marriage usually falls on the woman. They will say, make your marriage work. They won't tell the man. That's why you go to marriage seminars. Now women, they fool. Because society by default just makes it a woman's responsibility.
Yeah.
Okay, when you look at our society these days, a lot of marriages are crashing and homes are under pressure. What are those factors do you think are responsible for this?
I'll say money, social media, sex, pressure, lack of love. And also, not lack of love, winning love, and then failing to grow with your spouse. I think that failing to grow with your spouse is very underrated. When you get married to somebody, you already have likes. Maybe almost similar likes, similar interests, ideally. But as you grow, especially as a woman, as you grow, your interest changes. I don't know if it's applicable to men. I've never been a man, so I don't know. Your interest changes. Your preferences changes.
True.
Even, I don't know if I can talk about sex.
I mean,
the way you would have loved sex when you were newly married will change over time.
Right.
So you also have to grow with your spouse. Your spouse might maybe gain a degree and you still have a school set, or gain a master's and you still have a degree. Sometimes that disparity
could cause a problem.
Could cause, because and then some women also do not understand what their spouses do for a living. So you see that they cannot even relate with their spouses I don't know how to explain it. They cannot really talk about their husband's jobs.
Levels. Be careful.
Yeah, they
So-
can't really talk about their husband's jobs. So you find the husband, when he goes to work, he has a female colleague who understands the job. And then he tends to, I don't really know how to explain this. But what I'm just trying
So
to
you find
Yes.
comfort in someone else
So
rather than your
it's
spouse.
also important that you find interest, you develop interest in what your spouse likes. I mean, a lot of men like football.
True.
And you know, if you like, stand naked in front of your husband when he's watching football, he can even throw he won't see you. You know, so sometimes pretend. Me, sometimes I'll sit down and say, who is this Ronaldo? I'm not interested. It's just
And
so
then
that you
just
can
get
have,
the, I mean, just get.
just to, you know, those are, you know,
Bond.
little moments where you can just, you know, bond.
Okay. Right. But then some will also say, I mean, I'm just trying to, you know, earlier we did say that, or you said that marriage could be seen as more, you know, complex
Yes.
because of two individuals. But some will say parenting for them is harder because, again, you need to deal with, you know, responsibilities, nurturing children from, you know, being small and all of that. So if you look at it that way, should there be a particular mindset that parents should have when they start having children?
Oh yes, even with marriage, I think enter your marriage with the mindset that it will work. I will make my marriage work.
Okay.
I mean, I'm of the opinion that you shouldn't leave a marriage except you've exhausted all avenues.
Okay.
And especially if your life is at
Risk.
You know, it could be physically, it could be emotionally, because really emotional abuse is also as dangerous as
physical
if not-
abuse.
if not worse. And then with parenting, it's easier to parent better when you don't parent alone.
Okay.
So when your husband, you carry your husband along, you know, by default, a lot of us mothers, we like to take on that superwoman.
Yes, and then you think you can do it all by
And, you know,
yourself.
we are also, it's easier for a woman to multitask than a husband. A woman can be making stew in the kitchen and she's running, and I used to do it before. I'm supervising homework. in the parlor, I'm boiling stew. I'm opening my laptop to answer an email, an email. Meanwhile, my husband could be there. And
then
because
you
the
can't
man
say
sees,
that, okay.
and because the man sees that you are capable, he doesn't think that you need
should help.
Some men will need probe, you know, you need to probe them. Oh,
Right,
help.
and then you
Some
also
becomes-
ask.
Of course, ask. And then for a lot of men, it comes naturally. So I mean, know the spouse you married so that you can handle your expectations, manage your expectations better. If you married a man who doesn't believe in lifting a finger to even carry his plates to the kitchen after eating, you don't think that when you marry him,
He will do
he
that.
will now start
Ah.
carrying his plates to the kitchen. No,
Because
when you
a lot
marry-
of people also live in that denial
Yes,
and think that
yes.
you can change somebody when,
Yes.
but then you must also get that at the back of your mind that it's not
You can't
difficult to change.
He may end up changing you, or you just live a very it's the truth. You may become very resentful, or just live a very unhappy marriage, you know, unhappy life.
Right.
Okay, the quality of our marriages or our homes, what kind of impact does it have on our children and the way we parent them?
Okay, there was this saying I saw 2 days ago. They said, make sure that if you're single, make sure that the spouse you marry sets a standard for the kind of spouse you want for your children in future. Meaning, as a single lady, the choice of man you marry, and because I mean the man you marry automatically becomes the father of your children.
Right.
So choose right. So I mean, for those of us that are already in marriage, I would just say that your children are mirroring you. They are watching how the husband treats the wife, how the wife treats the husband. And some people will say your children should not see you fight. I would say yes, they shouldn't see you
Physically
physical, but they
fight.
should see you quarrel.
Okay, so they
But
can know how to handle.
Yes, and just to demystify a lot of things, the most important thing is seeing both of you make up
Okay.
After the fight.
after the fight. A relationship cannot be flawless, how much more marriage, you know? So let them see mommy and daddy have disagreements, and then see that both of you have made up. The only thing that I wouldn't subscribe is your children seeing both of you
Fighting.
going
Physically
physical.
fighting.
So the standard you want for your children when when they are older is what you should start setting now. You know, with your daughters as mothers, the things, how you project yourself in marriage is to an extent how, I mean, we have mothers now. Some of us, you know how ideally, a lot of African mothers are very long suffering, you know. I'm not saying, but times have changed. So, I mean, if you want to raise very confident daughters who don't have to depend on men,
their husbands,
you know, then your daughters have to see mommy earn a living.
Right. Okay.
You know, mommy working or mommy having a business. And with discipline, I would say both partners have to be on the same page so that you don't have the good cop, bad cop. My husband will say there's something we mothers do. We keep saying, let your daddy come back.
Like so a fear factor.
Exactly. So we've sort of demonized fathers.
Okay.
My husband will say, oh, so I'm the bad person. I mean, when your mother is around, you can misbehave. So we do these things unconsciously. And then when we're growing up, everybody's happy, cool. But once we hear daddy's car,
everybody
wants that playing outside, let daddy catch you. You know, so I think with parenting, with disciplining the children, both couples, a couple should be on the same page.
Okay.
When your spouse is correcting your child and you don't particularly like the mode, especially if it's not physical, you could just calm down. And then when you go to the room,
talk about it.
Say, honey, I don't think we should do it like this. Because once the children know that mommy and daddy don't agree, trust me,
they will use it. They will use it as a tool.
Yes.
I'm glad you brought this up. And then again, so there are things that, you know, parenting would also make you adapt to in marriage. And so this is one of the areas where you must agree, especially in front of the children. So that won't also give the children the leverage to want to either defer. Because if you ask them, oh, I like my mommy more. And why? Because mommy buys everything for me or daddy beats
like
me.
Their dad,
oh, many, especially the girls.
Because when mommy will say sleep time is 9. 9 o'clock, that is
another 30 minutes, especially if it's a Friday. It's weekend.
So you can see, mom is already the bad person.
When it comes to certain things. And so, again, when you look at, of course, looking at which one is harder between a marriage and parenting, can one also come to a midpoint in both, you know, knowing that, okay, against all odds, I want to make my marriage work, but against all odds, I want to also be intentional about the kind of parenting that, you know, I make. So are there sacrifices really that you make just to ensure that there's a balance?
Oh yes. With parenting, every day is a sacrifice. With marriage, you also sacrifice. You make a lot of compromises. A lot of women have had to choose between their marriages or their jobs. A lot of women have had to move from their comfort zone, maybe from Lagos to Bauchi,
to other places
because of marriage. Bauchi is not an uncomfort zone. It's just an example. You know,
maybe in distance from Lagos.
You know, so you make that resolve every day. You wake up every day with the resolve to make your marriage work. You wake up every day with the resolve to make your parenting journey better.
Success.
And I think with mothers, there's this unspoken burden, which is that you worry every day if you are doing the best.
True.
And it gets worse as your children grow older. My daughters are in JSS1, and I feel that this is the toughest stage of the journey so far. Because I just think, now I just start. You know, so I see
them. She has triplets, by the way. I'm just telling you, Jibola.
So every day, I see different things, and I'm like, when I think, say, I don't pass this one is
just coming.
So you see, you have to be intentional.
And the fact that they're the same age for you makes it so right.
So in marriage, you have to make sacrifices. Your spouse will do a lot of things, and just like I would say, overlook in parenting. Sometimes just come office.
Okay, you mentioned money or economy the other time, and oftentimes we have seen that a lot of marriages are under pressure because of money, and of course, if there's no money, you cannot really do any kind of parenting because you won't be able to pay school fees or buy them things that you want. But we have seen in certain instances whereby maybe the wife unconsciously or the husband will unconsciously say that, okay, I'm the one paying your school fees, or the woman will say, I'm the one paying the school fees, I'm the one doing this. How do we harmonize things together in such a way that we won't be opening our bags of cans of worm, to our children, even if the woman is the one doing all the spending or is the man?
Okay, so now I think it depends on the to the partners involved. But let's be honest. Let's be honest. Maybe we can say off camera. Love is sweet, but when money is entered, it's sweeter. When my husband gives me money, the love meter increases. You know? So I think money makes it easier to love somebody, but there are times when money is not enough. Character, you know, and a lot of kindness comes into play. But that's not to say that money is not good. And then, you know, these days, a lot of we don't really have single income homes. And when I mean single income homes, maybe
it's
from the husband, not the wife, except the man is so rich. These days, you find that the average, and you know, in Nigeria, there's no upper middle and there's no middle class.
It's upper low.
Is either you're there or you're
poor. So a lot of we, you know, that fall into the what we should call middle class, you find out that the wife has to bring something to the table. After all, people are always asking, what do you bring
What
to
are
the
you
table?
bringing to the table? This table may not break.
May not break in Jesus' name. So you see that women are working or doing something and men are doing something. Unfortunately, life can happen.
Sure.
So a man who is like a breadwinner, nobody knows tomorrow. Fortunes can change. And so most times it's easier for a woman who has already been doing something to step in, especially if he's a very responsible man. But this is where wisdom comes in. Children are noticing. They know who's buying things in the house. So if the woman still respects her husband as the head of the home, if the children ask for money, she should give it to her husband.
To give to them.
Give to the children. Just so that the man maintains his manliness.
Okay.
Because, I mean, for men, I hear that money is one of the things that makes a man a man. So when a man is broke, he feels less a man. How much more a married man that cannot provide for his family? I think a man who is very responsible, who suddenly cannot provide for his family, will feel weak and feel less of a man. You still have to deal with the what's it called? The complex that comes with
ego.
The ego, managing the ego when the woman is in charge. So the woman has to manage that situation in such a way that the children don't even know that she's the one
doing all this.
Responsible for.
But we are human beings. Sometimes we could be women.
And it will enter your head.
Enter your head. You just be like, I don't even know. When my mates were marrying, I don't even know
How did I get here?
How did I get here? You know? Or you'd be like, I don't even know this your father. He's so
I'm tired.
I'm tired, self. I don't even know who caused me, you know? So we are humans.
Right.
So you just have to be conscious and, you know, intentional when, you know, dealing with some of these things.
The emotional intelligence is very key, like you rightly pointed out, and so it's important that both the man and the woman are also very use wisdom, ensure that there's wisdom at all times, because again, we've painted the picture that it could be the woman who's buffing up, but other times it could also be the man who's also doing that. And so the balance here, how important is it for emotional intelligence to always be at play here? You know, again, marriage and parenting, there's so two things that you can't wish away in a home, because they will always intertwine. So when it comes to decision making, choosing of schools, choosing of, you know, sometimes as little as a birthday party, they cause problem. Why do you want to throw a one-year-old party for your child? So I have 30,000, I want to, why in a party remain, you know, things like that. So how much of emotional intelligence do we need to imbibe at all times to ensure that all of these things that can be conflicting are nipped in the bud before they snowball into something that, you know, could either cause, you know, a break or a problem in the home?
Okay, nice question. I think it boils down to understanding your partner and understanding what makes him or her, what quickly, easily trips, you know, gets him or her angry. If a couple are on the same page, it's easier, decisions will be easier made.
To take, okay.
You know, and I always say that no two couples are the same. One is usually hot, one is cold. Even if both of them are quiet, you find out that one is quieter and one is a bit more outspoken. So I think that's where emotional intelligence comes in. Having constant communication and just being on the same page. And I find that with things like birthday parties, sometimes it's the women that want to do it.
Yes, no.
Because I attended, I want to show, I attended the Mommy Ronke's.
So I have to do my own.
I have to show, you know, and then the man will be like, Sometimes you see the man, you say, okay. If it's a man that has money, okay, how much? And
just take the money and leave me alone.
Let me rest. That's still emotional intelligence, because he also does not want to cause a
some
fight,
kind of
because
rift.
the woman can drag the fight. And then in some cases, it's the husband that is the showy type.
Right.
There are cases like that, and the wife is reserved. There are cases like that. It's just that not so commonplace. So it's about knowing your spouse and knowing how best to get him or her to accept your decisions. I know the best time to approach my husband to ask for favors, and I also know how to also ask for the favors. So it's about understanding your spouse and using it to your advantage, and vice versa.
Okay, we know that marriages face a lot of external influence and, of course, challenges. How do we manage those external factors that might put pressure on us as couples?
Okay, so I want to believe that by external factor, you're talking about in-laws, for instance.
In-laws, extended family members.
And friends.
Yeah.
Okay,
church members.
This table. I would say with in-laws, it should be an ongoing conversation. Before you marry, I mean, will we allow in-laws come in? If they are coming in, how long would they stay? Do they need, who would they call? Because I mean, in my own home, if my brother-in-law calls my husband that he wants to come, he's coming, my husband will say, call her. Wife. So, you know, those are little unspoken rules. And then sometimes we find that as the marriage gets older, some rules will be relaxed.
Right.
Sometimes because children have
sometimes
come in,
you set new ones.
You set new ones. So it's an ongoing conversation. With friends, they will say, should it really be your spouse's friend? I think it makes the marriage easier. You know, but I mean, your spouse is also allowed to have friends so that he or she can also have life outside of the marriage.
Home,
because I mean, if you keep it gets boring. That's the truth. That's why some people say occasionally, wife travel, husband travel, come back, the marriage is
renewed.
You know, so I would say it's ongoing conversations. It's not really cast in stone. There are circumstances, maybe before marriage, they said, no, mother-in-law cannot stay in our house. She must even die before we marry. All these kind of things.
Some people say that.
There's this notion, I might be wrong, that the wife's family tends to enjoy more than the husband's family.
I think it's like an unspoken something.
Is it the truth?
I don't know. Now, it depends on the dynamics of the family. It depends. In my own case, my parents live in Lagos, and they live like 2 streets away from my house. Yes. While my husband's family are back home in Delta. So, I mean, automatically, which family will be more
accessible to you? The ones that are around here.
So that's why I say it depends on the dynamics. It also depends on the financial, because really, when you say a particular family is favored, it's money we are talking about, right?
Yes.
So it depends on who has the ace. Is it the man that is richer, I mean the husband, or is it the wife that is richer, or is it the man's family that has money, or the wife? So every family has their own dynamics. But by and large, I think I want to agree with you, because I mean, women, we sort of get away with a lot of things. So I think I'll agree with you on this.
It looks like, you know, the word intentional, it will favor both marriage and parenting. So you have to be intentional to keep, you know, a peaceful home as well as raising children. Still staying with what Ajibola said earlier with external influences and all of that. That is also huge on parenting. A lot of mothers will also want to compare. Am I doing it the right way? So the kind of school that my children go to, is that the kind of school that, you know, mothers can have, you know, a group that they compare notes and all of that. So how much of this should individuals also either make or mar your relationship with your children? Or because again, some people are quick to want to do what others are doing, not putting into consideration their own family status, and at the end of the day you could also run yourself into some kind of trouble. So how best can you ensure that whatever you do as a parent, it is what works for your family, and not because Jane is doing that, I also want to do same? Okay,
a greedy person will always get into trouble. I mean, if you are greedy, if you're not content, if you always look at what people have, you're covetous, you want to have what people have, you will run into trouble, you will put your spouse in trouble, and even your children, you will raise them badly. Right. So I think it all boils down to your personal values, your personal beliefs. The secondary school my children currently attend, it's not what it's not like my dream school. It's not like our dream school. I'm trying to be as realistic as possible here,
Right.
giving practical
Instances,
examples.
yes.
But it is what we can afford at the moment.
Right.
So when fortunes change, because I always believe that it won't always be like this, things will get better. So when my husband eventually becomes an Odugu, we'll pull them out of that school.
Right.
But that's not to say that it's not a good school.
Okay.
I'm just saying that we have to learn to be grateful for what we have. We also have to understand that life is in seasons.
True.
Times will change. With you making that move, things will not always be bad.
Right.
So just know that you are in a particular season. Things
And
will
so
get
live
better.
within that
Live
season.
within that season and try to create your own happiness. Once you're able to do this, you will notice that it's easier for you to raise children who are content.
Right.
Who will not be looking at what other people have. Because guess what? The world is full of so much pressure. Even we adults, we
Yes.
face pressure
True.
from colleagues, from friends, from
family
family
members.
Sometimes you even have a spouse who is competing with you. We are not even talking about that. You know, so
That one hard.
yeah, so we have to learn to be comfortable with what we have so that we don't run into trouble. When you talk about comparing, I think that's a mistake a lot of
People
parents
make.
I mean, comparing your children amongst themselves,
Yeah.
comparing them with
So
other children, forgetting that every child is different.
True.
Every home is different. Children will eventually blossom, even if they don't blossom at the same time. So having that at the back of your mind makes it easier for you to make informed decisions that will not run you into trouble. I know people that they say that's 1 million naira a year daycare or crèche.
That's where I want to go to.
And then they will save salary, maybe 9 months, take loan. So it's like a circle. Why? Because they are trying to fit in. I mean, at the end of the day, you even be an unhappy parent because, you know, schools of that magnitude, they also have levels. So when they want to go on excursions, maybe they are saying
You're not able to.
maybe they are saying we are going to Brazil next.
Then reality will dawn.
Reality will dawn on you. You that manage or struggle to raise school fees. So at the end of the day, you end
Undue pressure.
You end up putting your child at a disadvantage in an elitist school because you are not even able to meet up. And then yes, your child is in an elitist school. He's mixing up with the elitists, but he still has that low self-esteem. Because
This question might be tricky. As mothers and fathers now, how do we manage our homes in such a way that I don't let it out that, okay, Abimbola is my favorite or Jane is my favorite?
okay.
It's so tricky.
It's tricky.
It's very tricky.
And somehow, I think it's when you grow older. You now say, oh, so it was our last born that was mommy's favorite. Why? Because mommy was able to hide it. So can I say I have I'm trying to answer that question. Can I say I have a favorite of my children? I'll say no. But I like each person more for a particular thing.
Okay.
But I
And do you
can't
tell
say...
them? So that, because again, unknowingly, this is where sibling rivalry come in.
And sometimes, you know, the funny thing is that it's the child that answers you more when you call that you tend to send on errands.
True.
So it will now look as though you
That's
love
your
that
favorite.
one more.
It's because that makes it easy for you to just get things
But some will
done.
get away with certain things that others wouldn't.
Well, I can't really answer for that one because my children are of the same age. When I get age by age, you know that this money, the last ones will always be mommy's favorite. Me, I'm raising 3 people at the same time, so I have to manage and ensure that all 3
It's balanced.
is balanced.
So is it balanced though?
It's not. It's not. But we are trying. It's work in progress.
It's work in progress. So your final word as we go today, we've established the facts that, you know, making a marriage work and parenting are 2 different things, but they're things that you can do side by side. So as we go today for parents generally, what will be your advice to make your marriage work and make parenting easy for you?
So I would say parenting is easier when you work as a team with your spouse. So try as much as possible to work as a team with your spouse. Marriage is easier when you're also in sync with your spouse. It can be tough because, I mean, adults are difficult to lead or to be with. It's easier to lead
Most children.
But adults are difficult because the character, the traits, everything is formed. So be intentional about your marriage. Love your spouse for who he is, while praying that he or she becomes who you want him to be.
Okay.
Be happy with where you are, understanding that times and seasons happen. Things will get better. With your children, just be confident in your parenting choice. Get you a support system. Love your children for who they are. Encourage them, nurture them, spot their talents. You know, just create, as a woman, the atmosphere in the home is
very important.
It's your
making.
It's your making. So if you want to raise your children in a home filled with love, it's in your hands.
Right.
If you want to raise your children in a home filled with turmoil, it's in your hands. So meaning you create your happiness, you create the joy, you know, you want to see in your home at the end of the day.
All right, okay. Would have to leave this here today. Thank you so much, Jane, for finding time to be here with us on the program today. So, of course, we've talked about, what is harder, marriage or parenting. But again, we've also said both are intentional. You need to be intentional to make your marriage work, as well as, you know, make good parental choices. So, if you want to raise beautiful children, as a mother, the box stops on your table. But you must have a support system in your partner. All right, we'll take a quick break. The conversation returns shortly.